Paris has often been called the City of Light, and during the 1800s, when gas lighting was becoming more common, boy did it ever live up to its name. As soon as darkness fell, the city lit up in restaurants and cafes, theaters, city squares, and public gardens. Not only that, but it was also a party town, and oh my, did they ever know how to party. Montmartre and Pigalle in the northern end of Paris were at the heart of all this excitement, with open-air dances, indoor dance halls, theaters, cabarets, and all kinds of other entertainment. In these places, aristocrats rubbed shoulders with ordinary people, artists, musicians, dancers, courtesans, as well as the sad underbelly of Parisian society. Now, all of this was happening before the widespread use of photography. And yet, we still have a sense of what the atmosphere was like thanks to the artists who hung out at these places, attracted by the vibrant social scene. So come along, let's follow in their footsteps and check out the hot spots of Paris' City of Light in the late 1800s. The first cabaret to offer shows was the Café Artistique, later named Renoir, where writers, singers, and comics put on performances. Others followed, each with their unique fantasy themes. One of the most famous was the Gothic Cabaret of Hell, the Cabaret de l'Enfer, which was very dark. The tables were coffins, the waiters were dressed like monks and undertakers, and there were ghoulish performances like this one called The Cauldron. The Folies Bergere was the first major music hall in Paris in the 1870s. It grew in popularity thanks to its vaudeville shows with acrobats, snake charmers, and exotic acts that fantasized about other cultures. For example, the seduction of the beautiful Princess of Persia by a Greek prince. The next decade saw the rise of a new genre, the music hall revue, which was the birth of burlesque and women dancing in skimpy costumes. This is one of the early costumes at Les Folies Bergere, featuring a lot of pom-poms. Note the headdress with the rabbit ears and more pom-poms. Over time, the costumes grew more elaborate. This one is lovely with the tricorn hat. They also got skimpier. Orientalism was very fashionable, and themes of concubines and harems offered a heady combination of eroticism and fantasy. And what do you think of this peculiar costume? The Folies Bergere was also a known venue for prostitutes and barmaids who turned tricks on the side. But this painting by Manet wasn't just the picture of a barmaid. It was also a social commentary, because Manet associated oranges with prostitution, and the red triangle on the beer label represented a British beer instead of a German one, which reflected the strong anti-German sentiment in France at that time, because just a few years earlier, Germany, or Prussia as it was called then, had badly beaten France in a war called the Franco-Prussian War. Then, of course, there was this entertainment hotspot, which I'm sure you recognize. Yes, it's the Moulin Rouge. The Moulin Rouge is best known for being the birthplace of the can-can, which reportedly was originally a seductive dance by the prostitutes who operated out of that original site. Based on the art of the day, it would seem that the can-can was a little rough to begin with, but then again, it was an unconventional audience. Eventually, the technique became perfected, and soon it spread like wildfire throughout the night spots of Europe. One of the regulars at the Moulin Rouge was the painter Toulouse Lautrec. Here we have a poster by him and of him drawing, and here he is sitting at a table with prostitutes. Now, the Moulin Rouge was, of course, a fake windmill. And why a windmill, you might ask? Apparently, it was a sort of homage to Montmartre, which in the olden days had lots of windmills. The concept was also a reflection of the spirit and atmosphere of one of the most successful dance halls in Paris, which was located in a real windmill called Moulin de la Galette. Here's another sketch of it, and another. On Sundays, it opened at 3 in the afternoon till midnight. The Moulin de la Galette gave the working class a chance to dress up and a relaxed atmosphere to eat, drink, dance, and forget the drudgery of the week at work. A brass band played quadrilles and polkas and waltzes, and later in the night, the can-can. As night fell, it attracted affluent men of leisure on the lookout for easy women and prostitutes, and pimps luring women and on the lookout for rich men. Of course, there were also a lot of cafes and bistros and brasseries where people hung out at night. Being a waitress was a tough job, though, because servers were commonly paid entirely with tips. There are pamphlets of the period that talked of the demoralizing effect on waitresses and barmaids whose income depended on pleasing the customer. Since the expectation was that they should fraternize and drink with the clients, it was a fine line between waitressing and prostitution. It was thanks to the invention of gaslighting that Paris became known as the City of Light. Before that, nighttime was dark, lit only by candles, and so naturally people went to bed as soon as possible after sunset. Gaslighting brought people out and turned Paris into a cultural hotbed, which shows, doesn't it, how technology and culture are so closely intertwined. Another area that was greatly affected by technology was the visual arts. Before photography became common, the only way to record the events of an era visually was through painting and illustration. La Belle Epoque did see the beginning of photography, but it was primitive and unable to capture in the same way that painting could the atmosphere and the interplay of culture, society, and the human experience.